Good morning and welcome back to the Star Citizen Alpha. Welcome to the Stanton system. We're going to jump into some more adventures today, but before we do, if you enjoy the video, please like. If you want to see more content, please subscribe. And if you are not yet a member of the Star Citizen community, please check out that code in the upper left of the screen. That is going to make sure that you get an additional 5,000 starting currency, and it's going to get a few benefits for the channel as well. So I appreciate if you do that. For now though, let's go ahead and jump into today's adventure. Good evening. Alright, now this is going to be a little bit of a different video format than what we have been doing lately. What I'd like to do is just looking back at the fact that I've just hit 30 days as a Star Citizen backer. My first purchase was actually the 30th of October 2020. I'd like to look back a bit at how my fleet has grown and changed and evolved over that first month. Now, I do realize that my fleet has probably evolved and grown differently than most. I tend to jump into things full-on, head-first, and, well, yeah, you'll see that as we progress. So, basically, just as we start out, my first package, my starting out, was to purchase a freelancer. Now, in retrospect, had I realized that the freelancer at the time was free to everyone due to a bug, I may have picked something different to start with, but I did know that trading was the area that I wanted to focus on, at least initially. So this to me seemed to be the doorway into trading within Star Citizen. As such, that is the ship that I decided was best suited to start my fleet. Alright, moving on then from the freelancer, it did not take me very long to realize that as much as I liked the freelancer, I wanted to go for something a bit more, a bit bigger, a bit more committed. So I upgraded the freelancer to a freelancer max. This is again a devoted trade ship. It can fight, it can shoot things, it's got a turret. I will say that I did start out with a friend who was already a backer, who had not been playing for a while, but who was coming back into the game with me. So having that turret, having that flexibility was quite a selling point. The fact that we could both jump into this ship and we could go do trade runs together. And initially in the early few days of the game, that was exactly what we did. We pooled our money together. We bought as much cargo as we could. We sold it. We split the profits. We repeated. We alternated flying and gunning. And basically that's how we made our starting money. We started out at Bud's Growery with running distilled spirits, and just started making our money that way. That's how we led into then the next part. Alright, so a fairly simple change on this next one. Once we had been doing mining runs for a while and made some money, the next thing was to purchase the rock. Now at 172,000, there was a bit of a trek to get there. We did have some help from a very generous person in the chat who actually donated the money to me to purchase my first rock, on the condition that I then pay it forward to someone else, which I did. I used the funding from my rock to actually purchase my friend who had come back to the game with me, purchased him a rock. He then proceeded to pay it forward to another player, purchasing them a rock, and that player has now agreed that they will in turn purchase someone else a rock. So that has trickled down and has aided a number of people in starting out their mining careers. So at this point, we kind of slacked off on the trading a bit, and we started loading 2 rocks into the Freelancer Max, heading over to Ariel, and mining for more funds to do more things with. The purchase we made was using money gained from the rocks to make an AUEC purchase of a prospector. Now, the intention here was for the prospector to replace the rocks as our default money-making tool, but we quickly found out that, well, not really even sure of a nice way to say it, but we just really didn't like the prospector. My first few runs out with it were 5, 8, 12,000 credits, or AUEC rather. Even after upgrading the laser, 15, 20,000 was common. A lot of it is the fact that it picks up so much junk rock unless you're just extremely picky. And if you're being extremely picky, then you're going to spend so long trying to find rock. The prospector went down to maybe 50, 60, 70,000 AUEC an hour, whereas we'd been making 200 to 400,000 an hour with the rock. It just didn't make much sense, and to be honest, we were not impressed with the prospector at all. Had it been something that I had purchased not using AUEC but with backing money, I would have been scrapping it and getting into something else. It's just, to me, in my opinion, it's just not been great. It may change. We may be using it wrong. I don't know. But first ship I was really just not happy with. So moving on then. Alright, the next ship that was added to my fleet then was the Cutlass Black. This was actually donated by a friend of the channel, someone who's been following the channel since way back when I did Disney content and D&D content. So I definitely appreciate that. This person has asked not to be named, but I do want to thank them yet again. So that was the next addition to my fleet, the Cutlass Black. It kind of replaced the Freelancer in a lot of ways for my solo rock mining that I did. Anytime I was going out now, I ended up preferring the Cutlass Black to the Freelancer. And since I was mining more than trading, it meant that the Freelancer started seeing a lot less use. Alright, so from there, that brings us to day 1 of the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo. So this was my first experience with any kind of an event in Star Citizen. My first expo, my first free fly days. I invited my brother along to join us, so he was able to get into the game a bit. On this day, I also picked up the premiere ship of the day, the kind of big deal that was coming out, the Nomad. Now, you're going to see the Nomad appear a few times on here for a couple different reasons, and I'll explain those. But just in regards to the Nomad itself, it's a great little ship. I enjoy it. It's fun. I'm not sure how much I'll actually use it, but I like it. I don't mind it at all. Alright, so, as we progress then, still on day 1 of the IAE, you'll actually notice that for just a blink in time, the Cutlass Black actually disappeared from my fleet and was replaced with a second Nomad. Now, this was very much a blink and you'll miss it moment, and as you'll see as we move on, you'll understand why. But this phase of my fleet lasted probably no more than 15 to 20 minutes, just while I was working out exactly what I was moving on to next. Alright, so as soon as the Cutlass disappeared, like I said, it was immediately back with me. What I did was I took one of the Nomads that had lifetime insurance, and I upgraded that into a Cutlass Black. That means that the Cutlass insurance, which was originally 6 months, is now lifetime. You will also notice on here that at this point I also purchased the Mercury Star Runner. Now the MSR is a ship that just immediately when I saw it I wanted. I fell in love with the look of it. The data running aspect seems something I'm very, very much interested in exploring more of. And so what I actually did was I upgraded another Nomad to an MSR to give that the lifetime insurance as well, and then picked up another Nomad to have that capability in the future also. Alright, rolling forward just another day or two, we hit Drake Day, and at this point I tested out the Caterpillar and decided that it was a must-have upgrade to the Freelancer Max. Obviously, having the MSR and the Cutlass Black, the Freelancer Max kind of got outshone in the size that it was. So for trade runs, especially with the fact that we had started making a bit more money by this point, the Caterpillar seemed to be a very good buy at the time. Okay, yeah, the next thing then that happened following on from the completely logical purchase of the Caterpillar as an extension of my fleet was a very much instinctual purchase of the Origin 315P. This ship, to be completely honest, I was browsing the website and I saw the ship and I saw the Origin customization options. The fact that you could pick your leather and pick your wood and add your accessories and all of those amazing nifty things that the Origin ship purchasing allows, and I just had to have one. So I picked up a 315P. A little bit of foreshadowing, it is a purchase that I very quickly came to regret. Okay, then after coming off the purchase of the 315P and the almost immediate regret that came with that, to be completely honest, the first time I went to fly it, I lifted off from Microtech, got into orbit, opened up my map and realized that it didn't have the quantum range to reach anywhere that I wanted to actually go with it. It just did not have the fuel to get anywhere. And at that point I destructed it in space and melted it. It ended up just really not living up to my expectations at all. However, following on to the back of that, you will notice the very large elephant in the room here. I fell into the hype and picked up the Banu Merchantman, which then did give the loaner ships. So obviously the loaner ships being a Caterpillar and the Banu Defender means that I was back to having a Caterpillar again. Okay, on to the next elephant in the room. I very quickly, after the acquiring of the Banu Merchantman, started actually looking into the ship that I had just picked up and realized very quickly that it was actually not what I thought it was. The Banu, it has some amazing functionality, some brilliant features, but at the end of the day it started to sound more like a mobile shopping mall than a space trucker. And what I was looking for really is the hauling capacity, the space trucker. So the Banu was swapped out for a Hull D. It was melted down, and that was then used to pick up the Hull series. Following on from swapping the Merchantman to the Hull series, that obviously left a credit difference, the Hull series being a less costly ship than the Merchantman. So, filling that gap, a bit of an impulse purchase based on just basically the fact that I loved the Star Runner and did not currently have a fighter. Picked up the Ares Ion, which then added to my Caterpillar and Reclaimer that the whole D had provided by giving me a Hurricane and a Super Hornet fighter. I don't mind the Hurricane, I don't mind the Super Hornet, but I don't really do much combat, so they didn't do me much good, and, well, they didn't last very long either. Moving on to the final days of the IAE, to the Best in Show days, walked into the hall, and sitting there in the middle was the beautiful black, white, and gold Carrack, a ship that I had tested and narrowly resisted earlier in the show, and seeing it in that new color scheme, in that new paint, I failed to resist it again. And the Ion went away and was topped up to create the final ship of IAE for me, probably, the Anvil Carrack. So that brings us to the end of month 1 of Star Citizen and the end of the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo. And you can see in front of you my current fleet, a diverse group of trade ships with a little bit of mining and the smallest amount of combat included. From there, comment below if you have any questions or recommendations for me. Like and subscribe if you liked it and if you want to see more of it. And until next time, enjoy your time in the verse.